Thank you. Now it's time for the Citizen Activist of the Year award. There are people who are in the right place at the right time, like Zelig. And there are people who make history because they had the right stuff at the right time. That's how the history of privacy in California was written last year, or rewritten, by our Citizen Activist of the Year, Alastair Mactaggart. About this time last year, Alastair had just qualified a ballot measure for consumer privacy. We had Facebook's, yeah, that's a good thing. Facebook's Cambridge Analytica scandal had just broken and exposed how fragile all our privacy really was. The right stuff wasn't just an airtight ballot measure to give consumers control over their data. The right stuff was the force of character and moral integrity to make that the moment into something for the public that no one else would or could. Now, I'm not going to be a spoiler because what comes next is a very special video presentation you'll want to see, but I do want to say a few things before it starts. I know Alastair well enough to know that he's going to get up here and say it wasn't about him, it's a team effort. I had nothing to do with Alastair. Well, the team was amazing, there is no question. But I do want to tell you a little something about Alastair. Let me quote the New York Times Magazine cover story for August 18th, 2018, after Alastair had this victory. Alastair and his team were featured in this cover story by Nicholas Confiscori, who writes about after the ballot measure had qualified. For much of May, Assemblymember Chow and his counterpart in the California Senate, a lawmaker named Bob Hertzberg, quietly tried to negotiate a compromise. Industry lobbyists flatly threatened to kill any bill with a private right of action. Quote, "The private right of action was something that many stakeholders did not like," Assemblymember Chow said. Alastair said, quote, "They sent me a draft with no enforcement. There was zero creativity about how to solve the problem," end quote. He told them no. Well, not only did Alastair tell them no once, he kept telling them no. Even when Hertzberg said Google and Facebook were going to walk away from any deal and go to the ballot with $200 million against them. What did Alastair say? Let the voters decide. The New York Times writes, quote, "It began to dawn on at least some people that Mactaggart's vote might be the most important one," end quote. The most important vote in Sacramento. That power, the power to make the wealthiest and most powerful people and companies in the world bend to the will of consumers for an enforceable privacy right, that's the populist power we're celebrating tonight in this landmark victory. Thank you. That power was channeled through Alastair, who had the force of intention, moral courage, and will to demand that Facebook and Google give consumers a right that also had a remedy. So it was on June 28th, 2018, I won't forget this day, it was the last day to withdraw the ballot measures from the ballot. In the same afternoon, the Assembly voted on the California Consumer Privacy Act, the Senate voted on it, and the governor signed it just before 5 p.m., and a minute later, Alastair called the Secretary of State and withdrew his ballot measure. Alastair Mactaggart had felled Goliath, literally. It was a great day. Now, you may remember I talked about Alastair and his privacy initiative at the dinner last year. Do people remember this? People were here. And I said if the initiative had qualified, once the initiative had qualified, I said at that point there really was no deal in sight. So I said this was going to go to the ballot, and we're going to come back here, and when it's all done, we're going to celebrate Alastair and California's victory. Well, we're here. We're here tonight doing just that. And I want to thank Alastair for that, because there are too few victories in this world. Our privacy and the future of my son's privacy and all our children's privacy are safer and more secure because of Alastair. That's why he's this night's Citizen Activist of the Year. So let's take a quick look at that special presentation to him from a very special presenter.